Crows. Crows come first, always the first up. I murmur something about a song, and a feather falls. Black, of course, so black it blossoms, becomes my face, a puddle of rain. Crows describe daylight, traffic, weather conditions. Gathering close to my window, their mouths are jars morning tumbles from, disheveled and slow. In their conversation, they explain the warmth of asphalt, freezing rain and the high branches of pine, the dream I have wandered out of, searching for clues. This is the way stars see, they tell me, their hearts spun out to infinity. And the way back, if I follow them, more rain will fall. The letter. On the first line, the juvenile quarterlies of the moon appear. Hieroglyphs shaped like a cat's ear, meaning a cat's ear, the Chinese character for love and adoration. I have a sense of you here in a wedge of sunlight, the backward weight of your shadow, heavy as a cat's paw. What touches me here, this stirring? Is it the river rolling away, or syllables with their uvular hearts shut up in stone? The meter of thought is the hexagram meaning alone, the salutation a trochee, breathless with love. How long you have been gone, I write. How desolate the wind. How long you have been gone. Goldfinch. The children found you first, one eye open, feathers yellowy smooth, and folded just the right way for death. I believed for a moment you were not dead, but the wind knew, certain with the weight of so much emptiness. The face of a sleeping bird is a parable, the wind tells. As I listen, the children carry you in a wicker cage up the hillside. My son gives you a cross. They name you Elvis and sing. It is singing as Darwin first heard it. I watch them disappear into sunlight, their faces wreaths, their bodies lupins and irises that bow with the solemnity of ushers. Gratitude. Gratitude is a declension of love. I write gratefulness, and think of my mother at 17, alone on a train, her infant daughter dying in her arms. There is a word for the rain that came, for the men who would not help. That night, under a rain-black sky, my grandfather brought his daughter home on horseback. In my grandmother's house, the dead child is finally taken from my mother's arms. She will stay upstairs until summoned to come down and sit near her father's side. She will remember how we are set apart in our grief, and after a time, rise to take a different chair closer to the child's face. Her hands will enfold, make steeples, fall away from the doorway of the church as the tiny casket is slowly carried in. A man I know who can talk about light. The way light enters a house is the soul of the house, he pronounces. The light upon him, the angle of his face, the east wall which he imagines knocking down to let the eastern quadrant of the sun come in. At the marriage feast, he is a bridegroom offering 10 square hectares for his bride's hand. The man who can talk about light understands the carpenter's touch, the need of an inventor to comfort a broken king. The house he lives in is built so that the refractions of each season will find it. The grainy light will sit all day on the porch steps, staring at the sky, shifting sideways when a friend comes to join him. The light that winter brings is out there now, filling the wings of snow angels, pacing back and forth, running its bare hands over the north side of the hay barn to warm them. Fall comes, a straw hat resting against the sill, corn husks darkening in the field. The light that passes the window is old. It empties out of the room as the wedding guests prepare to leave, as the son who prays for his father's death comes back home. If we put our ear to the ground, light can be heard approaching from a long way off. Sometimes it is only one rider we hear, his leather satchel slung over his shoulder, his tired horse stopping to paw the chipped and dusty earth. River images for my son. In March, the river rises. On its bank, the thin bodies of birch reach up, herons stretching, a paper maker's wife pounding reeds in the wind. We hold the wind in our hands and count. In my son's hands, feathers begin to multiply. He gathers them inside the snowy continent of his heart, their histories and maps carefully laid out. One day, he says, a falconer stumbled upon an ancient grave and looked into the face of his beloved. His steady hand of fire in the sun, the memory of her kept alive, catalogued by touch. It's as if we have been sought after, but have waited too long. What befalls me in the daylight is this certainty: the river at my feet, stones where the vocabulary of change is constantly washed clean, my son's face upstream in the steady, untilled current. The river is higher than the hats the children wear, the rock they stand on. I bend low, my ear in their conversation, and find no way out. Kneel here, they say, our hands together. Listen, the river, a silhouette, listened, the ambushed heart. Yours is the after-image of a face, a stone the river washes upon when asking to leave. What memories will you take of me? Night has a scent all its own, water its own inventories. If I could lure the moon from its bed beside you, if I could convince myself there are 10,000 ways to look back. The river water is the color of sorrow, a child finally leaving home. I place my cheek on stone and hear the lament of an ocean. How is this possible, I ask? I kneel before the river, the salt of an ocean on my tongue. O lamentations, there are stones your feet have never touched, nets that have rested for centuries on the river bottom. The sea fills, empties, welcomes the vast migration of birds that navigate estuaries and marshes to find new life. One day, a valley man returned from his field. Dusk came. Unsatisfied, he wandered in an orchard to pray alone. In the same way, we enter cities. The river finds my hand and fills it over and over again. Sometimes it is the sky I feel in my palm, or the ashes of a star spilled from its silent urn. During the long night, I walk here, the moon a mantra. Sometimes I dream the river into miles of mangrove and wander lost for days. The children wade upstream and send their small boats to find me. But you, my eldest, have only a tiny raft drifting under a haiku wind. Upon the floodplains, morning is a decoy of birds, the egret resting on the water's edge, waiting for her young to come home. Each time we come here, remove our coats, assemble near the shore, an entire civilization appears. The tents of excavators go up, surround a city wall. A pyramid with the feather of an egret lies in the palm of a dying king. Where is the father who never loved us? His face, the river bottom, his memory of them, a particle of light. On the Yangtze, a boy maneuvers his small boat alone. The river, he believes, is the birth water of an ancient bird. Each day he sails downstream, her bright wing nestled against the softness of his cheek. When giving birth, a camel lies down at the feet of a herder and weeps. This is the place of water. We are devoted to the dying, to the unloved, the children we do not know. The manatee searches the river, unearthing stones to find her young. Once when the river rose so high, she found a nest floating upon a wave and wept. Bring them back, she demanded, bring them back. If you look long enough, a stone will move the moment you turn away. The depth of the river is measured by its own journey. Sturgeon, a century old, the manatee going upriver, her young, unweaned and still. You sit before me in candlelight, your face poured out like water. You are the son who came back, bidden home as the river rises to flood estuaries and darken the knees of wandering birds. On the banks of the Euphrates, they tallied their losses, cattle gone astray, goats that wandered off into the night, 20 horses galloping up the hillside, never heard of again. If I could tell them. There are new eggs that will hatch by morning, the child who wanders along the riverbank looking for a way to cross over. Faith. Once when the river was so high, the ibis carried her nest for days, fearful should one egg be lost. Carry me too, she cried, and the boy lifted her into his arms without once looking back. The river returns to us, the manatee to her solitude, the eagle to her nest on a rise of land above the riverbed. My hand in water ripples the thin surface, slow dissolution, a sea turtle bearing the sky. What is it we carry that cannot be set down? The scarf I weave is a river where an explorer lived out the end of his days. It is the malaise of winter, the green strip of courtesy that divides mountains. Overhead, the sky goes on as before, children tumbling in the air over a new continent. My son, I offer you now a winding river of starlight, buckled like a mapmaker's tear.